In today's video, we're finally able to talk about the brand new 14T and the 14T Pro from Xiaomi. Both of these devices are considered to be basically the devices that Xiaomi finishes off the year for the 14 series. So we started with the 14, we had the 14 Pro that was primarily a Chinese release only, but the 14 Ultra, that was basically the best of 2024. And now we have the 14T and the 14T Pro, a little bit more cost-effective versions of what we've seen before with some new technologies, but of course with Leica at its basic core of experiences, because Xiaomi pretty much is doubling down on something that we all appreciate. Also, some unique features in here that surprised me out of the box. This is TK, and today we're going to compare and see which one is the best one for you. Is it the Xiaomi 14T or the Xiaomi 14T Pro? Let's check them out. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so you're always notified to whenever we have new videos for you on the channel. So what I have in front of us is both boxes for the 14T Pro and the 14T. Both of them are co-engineered with Leica, and that we're going to see how the experience has basically been fine-tuned to elevate all of Xiaomi's experiences when it comes down to global releases. Kind of like what we saw with the Mix Flip that's actually going global now, which is really, really nice. But today we're going to focus on the 14T and the 14T Pro and see which one's the right one for you. Before I go too far, one thing to mention to you guys is that both of these devices are not going to be including the chargers in the box. So the 14 series, 14T and the T Pro are not going to include any chargers, although they support fast charging on Xiaomi's technologies. They don't include them in the box. So that's probably one of the reasons why the box are a little bit thinner than what we used to seeing before. What you should expect in the box is pretty straightforward. We have the devices, as you can imagine. This one's the 14T, the 14T Pro. We have two cases, of course, that are included still in the package, as well as a USB-A to USB-C cable. This is typical to what we used to see before with Xiaomi chargers. So if you have an older Xiaomi, let's say 120 watt charger, it's going to work perfectly for both. If you have a 67 watt charger from a previous generation, just be aware that they're both going to default to that speed. Although we have a 5000 milliampere on either one of these devices, this one charges at 120, as you're seeing right there with the charging test. And of course, on the left here with the 14T, we're charging at 67 watts. So a little bit slower, but still much faster than some of the other options that we get on the market. Absolutely, even in 2024. It can't go over too far without doing an honorable mention. Make sure to check out the video for the Xiaomi Buds 5 that I pushed out also at the same time. And these were launched at the same time as these guys, supporting some great audio, ANC, and of course on-device recording supported on Buds. This is something that we don't even hear from any other company right now. We're going to start off by doing a quick spec comparison and just kind of get that out of the way. Out of the box, both of them are supporting pretty much the same display technology. They're both 1.5K displays with Crystal Res AMOLED displays running at up to 144 Hz. As far as the storage and configuration, both the 14T and the T Pro will both feature up to 12 gigabytes of RAM. And as far as storage, a maximum of 512 gigs of storage on the left here on the 14T and up to 1 terabyte on the 14T Pro. Both, of course, are running HyperOS with the AI functionalities that are starting to roll out, and we'll talk about this in a second, but that's basically on top of Android 14 with the security patch update of June 1st, 2024. So definitely an update will be coming out very soon. And if we go through a little bit more, we have, of course, support for not only US SIM, but also supporting dual SIM with eSIM support, which is super nice. And that's one of the things that you'll probably notice here when I go in there. You'll actually see I'm using Iralo basically as my SIM provider for my eSIM here. So it's a disabled second SIM to be able to use an eSIM. But if you don't, you can use the dual physical SIMs on this. And you'll notice I was almost able to pull up to 600 megabits down with 114 up. This is again running on T-Mobile in the Los Angeles area while using Iralo as an eSIM. So that's something that you keep in mind. It's definitely not going to disappoint when it comes to performance. But when we take that away, again, the Dimensity 9300 Plus is going to be running as the processor here on the 14T Pro, as opposed to the 8300 basically Plus. Both of them are custom editioned Dimensity chipsets made specifically for these. So what you're looking here at the best of an 8300 series and the best of a 9300 series, both providing us some of the best performances. As you can see here, the numbers that we're showing here as far as the Geekbench scores, we're looking at them as with no non-performance turned on initially. And of course, after that, we ran it one more time with performance mode so that we can see the benefit of having the performance mode turned on. Otherwise, all the customizations typical. We have the Google Feed on the left side, access to all the shortcuts, the customizations that we have. I did turn on the app drawer. We obviously have app control. On the top left, if you swipe here, if you swipe to the right, we have access to the same toggles, music player, Xiaomi Home, of course, Wi-Fi connectivity. I don't have mobile data connected on this one right now, but we did take them both out and do some image testing here at the Descanso Gardens in Los Angeles, and absolutely a lot of good things. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the cameras and what we're getting here. The difference between the two is a slight difference in performance, but I will probably say that overall what you're getting here is a well-rounded Leica experience that is positioned to give you the best images possible. Also some of the best images possible as well as night. They're focusing heavily on night photography on these. The main sensors that we have here, let's go ahead and turn those off and turn it over on the side. Both of them are going to be featuring a 50 megapixel camera sensor on the main, although the 14T Pro will support up to 8K 30 frames per second on the main sensor, where we only get 4K 60 frames per second on the 14T. So that's actually not bad considering that we have the 8300 Plus. We have a secondary 50 megapixel camera for the telephoto lens and a 12 megapixel camera for the ultra wide, although different focal lengths, a 60 millimeter on the 14T Pro as opposed to what we have as a 50 millimeter here. So a slightly different configuration with an IP68 rating. Both supporting 32 megapixel cameras on the front and both supporting a front facing display fingerprint sensor, providing us some of the best experiences. So again, we have basically Pro mode. We'll go ahead and turn on here. We have movie mode. We have video, we have photo, we have documents, portrait, more, and all of the modes are for the most part mirrored here, identical here for both of them. And what I think is the best situation is we should just go outside real quick and do a quick demo of both the audio and video from the 14T Pro and compare it to the 14T and see if you see a difference between the two and does it make more sense to go with the regular 14T over the 14T Pro. I know typically when we do these front-facing cameras, rear-facing camera experiences, I'm actually in the backyard. And this time we're obviously at a much different location, closer to where the launch event of this device is going to be. I'm walking and talking right now on the front-facing camera on the brand new 14T Pro. We are recording at 4K. 30 frames per second is going to be the maximum resolution. And obviously it's going to be complemented with the main sensors on the back going all the way up to 8K 30 frames per second. But now we're switching to the main sensor on the back. 4K 30 frames per second with HDR supported in here, but when we go off the HDR function, we're able to go all the way up to 8K 30 frames per second on the 14T Pro. 4K 60 is basically the maximum we can get on the 14T, which is not a bad deal, actually. It's pretty decent. But if you want 8K, that's going to be a differentiator between the Pro and the non-Pro. And of course, hopefully you guys are enjoying the audio. I am obviously pretty close to where the launch event is going to be. I'm enjoying it. There's like beautiful scenery behind me. Hope you guys are enjoying the content there. And this is, again, a different way of doing audio and video recording, but if you're going to be using it to vlog, this is going to be definitely the best way to do it. And hopefully it doesn't start raining on me, as the weather here is predicting some rain. Now we're recording on the front-facing camera on the brand new 14T. This one can shoot also 4K 30 frames per second on the front-facing camera, and of course up to 4K 60 on the main sensor on the back. This is a walk and talk type of a situation, same spot, but again, just doing a quick test. Switching it over to the main sensor on the back. Again, 4K 60 is going to be the maximum, but since I'm shooting in HDR, 4K 30 is going to be the maximum here. This should be a good example of what the 14T can do, and again, by comparison, pretty comparable to what we get with the 14T Pro, with the exception of the higher resolution, but I think this is definitely a bang for the buck type of a solution. Let me know what you think. Now we'll go ahead and do a quick comparison between both the 14T Pro and the 14T to see how the speaker experience is. I have the audio set to 100% on both of them. We're going to start off with the 14T.
Jack it up.
Okay, now we'll go to the Pro.
Jack it up.
Now, the audio for both were definitely loud enough. What I would probably say is that the 14T Pro had a little bit more of a deeper bass, so the audio quality was a little bit better here, at least the way it sounded for me here in the studio. Please let me know in the comments below which one did you think sounded better. When it comes down to gaming, both are going to run really nice. Both are going to be able to give you some of the great experiences as far as game configuration. For me, I've been using them obviously to play Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG Mobile. Those are my two favorite mobile games when I'm traveling, when I'm playing with them. And they play very nicely, and specifically, they play at a very high resolution. While the game is actually loading up, I will say that one thing to keep in mind is that both of them are supporting UFS 4.0. So although we have different storage configuration, both of them are running on the same internal speed for the performance. The display is pretty much the same. The refresh rate on them are going to be pretty much the same, and both are supporting flat displays. You'll notice the display here is actually flat and very much the same experience on the 14T Pro. The biggest difference I'll probably say is the back material on this, on the 14T Pro, is actually a 3D curved experience, so it makes it a little bit easier and nicer to hold in the hand. On the 14T, you definitely can see that it's a flat front, flat side, and a flat area. So both of them are supporting, obviously, the game turbo that we have built in here. You're able to boost the performance, screen recording, launch pop-up window applications in here, as well as the ability of basically doing, screenshots, muting notifications, making sure your Wi-Fi configuration is running here. And for the most part, when we're playing Call of Duty Mobile, let's go ahead and jump in here. I'm going to go to graphics. You're able to go all the way to ultra, and that's going to give you the best experience. I can see here I'm able to cap it up at 120 frames per second. The gaming on this is not going to disappoint, and the one thing to keep in mind is if you do want to play with low latency mode, that the Xiaomi Buds 5 are definitely a great pair to play with either both the 14T or the 14T Pro. Now, as you're seeing there with the gaming experience, there's not going to be any issue. And I feel like both of these devices are going to perform pretty much the same. I think their power levels, their storage, their configuration, their RAM, as long as you're getting the best configuration that you get, probably the one with the most RAM that you're able to get, you're not going to be disappointed with either devices. The refresh rate is very much the same, and the display that we have is flat, which makes it very good for gaming. I feel like a lot of my gamers here that are following the channel will appreciate that the most. But when it comes down to the cameras and the color science and the tuning that we get between the two, are there any differences? Well, yes, technically the 14T Pro can go all the way to 8K 30 frames per second, but when we want to match them head to head with HDR support, both can go to 4K 30 with HDR, so they're starting to match each other. The images that you're looking at here are from a day that I went over to the Descanso Garden here in the Los Angeles area, and I wanted to do a head-to-head comparison between both the 14T and the 14T Pro. So what you're looking here is at samples of how the performance is going to be. I personally feel like both of them perform very well, although I may be leaning a little bit towards the 14T Pro, primarily because the way the color science, or at least the image processing is done, it's definitely, I feel like, closer to what it was looking for me. And of course, with the boost color that we get in there. We have both support are both obviously the Leica Authentic as well as the Leica Vibrant, as well as an AI mode. So if you're using either both of those, you're not going to be disappointed. And of course, for social media ready posts, I feel like both are going to do very nicely. Now, I didn't get a chance to share that with you guys, but some of their AI functionalities that we have in here are going to be coming in around October 6th with an update directly coming in. And my understanding is, at least at this point, it's not available on my unit. So make sure to let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to do a quick follow-up, maybe short or even a short video focusing on the AI features that are coming into the 14T series from Xiaomi. But the one that is actually available here for us to be able to check out is the AI Eraser, and it does have that Pro feature available on both the Pro and the non-Pro edition of the 14T, and it works absolutely fantastic. And I love the fact that it's on device, which means you don't actually need internet connection to be able to do this. So if you've ever taken a picture and you want to be able to remove somebody from the background, it does have a basic AI mode, but under the plugins section, if you download the plugin for the AI Pro version, it'll enable you to actually start removing subjects very nicely, and it does it basically as good as what we've seen from Google and other situations. The other thing that'll probably come in very soon, obviously, is we have some AI portrait modes, we have AI film, as well as the ability of doing AI note-taking, and as well as translation, and of course transcription, which was actually available on this as I'm showing you guys a quick sample right now. It works very nicely, and as long as you have a good internet connection, it runs very smoothly. You just need to pick the source language to the translation language, and as you see in that little demo, it shows you both the actual transcription of the original language, as well as the translation into the language that you choose. So for me, it was directly into English so that I can actually understand what's going on. So that was actually very nice. And the AI editor is actually very nice, and again, on device, offline functional options. And when we start talking about nighttime photography and what we should be able to expect, again, that's one of the things that Xiaomi was touting about this, is that this will perform much better at night. The camera sensors that we have in here are definitely very nice, very powerful. We have a very good processing experience on both of them, although again, I feel like the 14T Pro will definitely perform a little bit better if you're putting them head to head. I feel like if you're just looking at them independently, I don't think you're going to be disappointed either way. I think the 14T is definitely going to be the best bang for the buck. The 14T Pro is going to give you that few more features, but still shooting a little bit less than what we typically get from the flagship experience that we get at the beginning of the year. So this is something to keep in mind. Both are running the latest and greatest from MediaTek and the Dimensity chipset, which is very nice to see, which is typically what we see from Xiaomi in this series. So we're not going to be disappointed from performance, battery life, charging speed, although I personally would have preferred for the chargers to still be in the box. If you have one, again, 120 on the Pro and 67 on the standard, you're not going to be disappointed. They're charged up very quickly and you'll be topped off in no time, and the batteries actually last pretty good. We have dual SIM with eSIM support on both. That was really nice. It did require me to do a little bit of region switching for me to get the eSIM to turn on, but once you turn it on and you change back to the region that you're in, it actually works quite nicely, so there's no issues for me right there. But I'm going to put it back to you guys. I want you guys to let me know, what do you guys think of either the 14T or the 14T Pro? Do you prefer one over the other? And let me know if you've used these series from before. So if you've used the T series from before, what is your favorite feature that Xiaomi has done? Because they've done a lot of cool things every year, and they bring in some of those unique features that we don't really see on the standard number series. This is TK. Thank you very much to Xiaomi for sending me both the 14T and the 14T Pro, as well as the Xiaomi Buds 5 to check out and share with you guys my opinions. I'll see you in the next video.